This week on the SmackAttack, your blue brand breakdown. AJ Lee returns to the WWE. The Beast is off his leash. Ronda Rousey and Matt Riddle are running their mouths again. And oh yeah, I've got a very special guest this week. They never let it be said that I am not a good host. I'm not even going to mention a devastating loss last night, but I will say this. Let's go Lions.
Hey, Gridiron Heroes, baby.
Forward down the field, a charging team that will not yield. And when the blue win, stand and cheer the brave. Rah, rah, rah. Go hard, win the game. With honor, you will keep your fame.
Loving it.
Down the field and gang, a Lions victory. Go Lions!
Oh,
Nice story.
absolutely. Love it. Welcome to the SmackAttack. I'm RBV, and today I'm joined by one of my absolute favorites. Over 2 decades in the world of professional wrestling. Hey, he cut his teeth right here where I'm sitting in Cincinnati. Of course, with the legendary Heartland Wrestling Association, trained by the great Les Thatcher and the indie icon Cody Huck. He happens to be the host of Card Subject to Change on ESPN Radio's 1410 The Wing out of Dayton, Ohio. And Hamin Army, he is the name to blame for the first guy to get John Moxley to bleed in the ring. Welcome back to the Hamin Media Group, Mr. Benjamin Chimera.
What's up?
Big dog, thank you, man.
I'm the first one to bust John Moxley open. Yeah, it was a true story. During a HWA TV taping, it was me and Sean Osborne versus Necessary Roughness, Jimmy Turner and John Moxley. Hit him with a garbage can and gave him a belly-to-back suplex on the announce table, and the rest is 10,000 cuts ago.
10,000 cuts ago. Rex Pickler, one of our great listeners, man, is asking who we got here. Familiar, I mean, not so familiar, but I actually looked this up. It was about a year ago that you joined me for a Monday locker room record, brother. So it's been too long. But again, for those just joining us in the chat, our special guest co-host today on this week's SmackAttack, Benjamin Chimera, 2+ decades in the business. You've done about everything there is to do, brother. And now, you know, that journeyman, that veteran, we're going to talk about all that, but I really do want to jump in. It kicks off. And I didn't know this, learned this as we were just getting ready to record here. Able now, living that dream that so many to be able to make a business in professional wrestling. And I was asking about shoot job, and just so happens the ESPN gig. Podcasting, but open air radio, a big deal, especially for a professional wrestling show. And you guys have had tremendous success for a couple years with ESPN Radio out of Dayton.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to have a great production director with Justin Kinner. He does his own show on ESPN there. And he's such a great production director, but he found me, and he was kind of a fan, and he was like, okay, we'll give this a try here. And it's really taken off. And ironically, I thought it was going to be kind of one of those shows where we just kind of do some analyzation of the week to week of wrestling, right? Like, oh, hey, this happened on Dynamite, or this happened on Raw. The biggest thing that people want out of us is to talk about old school wrestling. People want us to talk about, Hogan and, the Attitude Era, and even, going in and before that, and focusing on the big stars of the childhood. Our audience skews older, but honestly, it's been a lot of fun to go back and do that. Not that I don't think wrestling's good now. There's a lot of good wrestling, but with kind of what's going on with the radio show, it's really just kind of nice to be able to look back, and look at the wrestling of yesteryear, if you will.
So that is interesting, because I know you guys do a lot of that nostalgia, and obviously you listen to what your fan base, what they want to hear. Now, obviously, the popular the nostalgia is it. You work in marketing, media, you know what's old is new again. People love reliving that. Do you find, though, like talking in your market research, are your listeners up to date? Are they still watching, or is it all they just want to go down that memory lane?
They're still watching to a certain degree, but I know we're going to get into a rabbit hole with this, but like, let's not mince words on it. When you get to the PLE, it's good wrestling. But when you watch Raw and SmackDown, back in the day, I won't say back in the day, but like before you got into the network and stuff like that, it was always Raw, pay-per-view, SmackDown, pay-per-view. And you built your story up that way. And now going to Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, that crowd is so hot, but they're not really hot for the wrestling. It just seems like they're hot because they're just happy to be there. You know what I mean? It's like they're singing along to every song. Every match is a "this is awesome" thing. They're just having fun, like physically being there at the show. Excuse me. If that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like it's great like that they're that hyped for it, but when I talk to people, it's not a thirst for wrestling. It's a thirst for having fun, right? Like, think about how great Jey Uso is with the crowd interaction, right? Like, it's fun. You sing his song, you get up, you dance. I mean, if you go back and like punch the clock and time it, it's like with Rhea Ripley. I mean, she's coming to the ring and interacting with people a good 5 to 7 minutes before something even happens, like a physical confrontation or starting a promo, or you know what I mean? So like it's good, but it's different. And the people that listen to my show want to talk more about like wrestling.
So you got that lapse fan again. They want that classic. And like I said, you've been in this over 20 years. You've seen the different generations, the styles evolve. And a reality of it is today, and I say this and people look at me like I'm freaking crazy, but once we start having that conversation, WWE, TKO, they're not necessarily in the pro wrestling business anymore. Now, pro wrestling is a product, a catalyst, but they are in the live events, the spectaculars, and the streaming and the advertising. That's their main focus. And that is the TKO blueprint. And it can work for the UFC. It can work for bull riding or any other venture that they want to go into. And Ben, you're right. It is about the live event experience, the larger than life, and they create the pops and the sing-alongs because they can sell that to advertisers. You were telling me, with the radio show, the Shoot Job, and you guys you're on Thursdays from 6 to 8. You got a 2-hour block on, but a lot of people don't realize all the work off air that goes into, you were telling me about it. And it's going out there and soliciting, getting business to business networking and reassuring that you get a return on investment from those other businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the hard part of the job. I was telling you a little bit earlier, 8:30 to 6 Monday through Friday, I am meeting with people and pitching the show and showing the numbers and showing the engagements and things like that to, solicit and sell ads for the show. And then, I'm at home, come home, make a steak, go to the gym, come back, and then I'm writing the show. But it's tricky to write the show because, you want to be relevant. You want to make sure especially when you're dealing with history, you got to make sure you're accurate. You know what I mean? Because if you're wrong,
they're going to eat you alive.
Yeah. If you're wrong or you make a mistake, like people are like, oh, you know how it is on the internet, and people they're definitely can be that way. It's the hard work started. Like if I had to flip a coin between what's harder, you've been in marketing yourself and you're in promotions and, you're out there pitching people and talking to people and, sometimes they'll ghost you and you got to chase them down. And then once you get, excuse me, my allergies are terrible, by the way. I apologize. It is that time of year where it's 90 degrees one day and 65 the next day.
Or that night.
Uh-huh.
Good old Midwest weather, my brother. Yeah, that's what we're going through here.
But yeah, like the work starts when the day is over, if that makes any sense. Like the production piece is just a lot of research. Like right now, we're in the middle of a Hulk Hogan retrospective, and I know people have complicated feelings about Hulk Hogan. I understand that, but like, I don't know how to say this tactfully. If everybody out there knew what that entire 80s and 90s attitude era generation up until 2010, if anybody knew what those guys did behind closed doors, everybody would be canceled. All people would be canceled. It would not be any, so for people to like hammer Hogan, for that stuff, it's wild to me, but I think that it's due, he's due a tribute. Yeah, I was talking to somebody last night about it at the DCW show, and they said Pro Wrestling Illustrated came out. They didn't do anything for Hogan.
Wow.
They did like a little blurb or something like that. And it's like this guy defined our entire industry for like 20 years. You'd think there'd be a little more respect, but like you said, going and doing the research for the show, that's the hard part. That's the work.
Now you're also, in addition to, the show, essentially, I mean, that is the day job, the shoot job. You're putting in 10 plus hours a day on that. You're still out on the road. You were some, even just yesterday, you did a double shot for two indie shows. How was that? I guess first and foremost, before we get into how you balance that, how much wrestling, modern day wrestling, does that allow you to watch? Because there is a ton of it out there, over 12 hours a week if you try to catch everything.
When I'm at the gym on the bike, that's when I'm watching wrestling. That's when I got the phone up and I'm trying to catch up and stay relevant. It doesn't really take. I kind of like the new Raw format in a way that they have like 2 or 3 really great long matches, but then a lot of promos. But there's a lot of stuff I can skip. You know what I mean? I can condense that Netflix down to like, I don't know, instead of being 2 hours, I can drop it down to like, an hour and 20 minutes or so with all the backstage hoo-ha. But it takes a lot to try to keep up with that, just to be able to have it in my head fresh. It's really tough with AEW because, like, and I don't know first off, how do you feel about AEW? What are your thoughts on AEW?
AEW itself, when we're talking about what shows we watch, I hit all the WWE shows, NXT, I watch all of AEW, try to get my Impact in, or at least, find somewhere where I can keep up with what's going on there. So that's kind of my scope, but I watch Dynamite every week. But unfortunately, at times for me, it becomes just like background noise as I'm doing other things, around, or if I'm prepping, or if I'm doing design, uploading YouTube videos like that. And I will say there are times when I fill in, because we have an AEW show here on the platform, The Wreckage, which you catch Sunday mornings, 11 a.m. A lot of times I'm like, I know I watched it, but I have trouble retaining it. And in the AEW style, might be a little different than what you watch wrestling for. I like the backstage shenanigans. I like the character stuff. So I tend to tune out bell to bell sometimes, especially for those long overdrawn matches, which we get a lot more of from AEW.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there, because that, like, okay, there's something to like, and it sucks you in, whatever it might be. And then there's like a bunch of buffoonery, or I don't know about you, but like, when everybody has different tastes, right? So like that AEW really does a great job of capturing that indie Japanese style, but putting it on a high platform, right? But when I'm watching it and I watch a guy let's for example, take a package pile driver on the steel steps, and then 2 seconds later, he's up swinging a chair at somebody. I don't know if it's just the training or my personal taste or whatever. Like, I immediately just tune it out. And that's not trying to be a jerk or whatever, because I get it. Everybody's got a different taste. But like, I want to like Tony Storm. Like, Tony Storm's like easily the best, if not one of the best characters on TV right now. She's so funny. She's so engaging. She has no shame. She will say whatever. She will do whatever. She engages the crowd. And then like they'll do something with her and then they'll stop doing it and they'll lose the momentum. It's like this. Tony knows if he's writing it with input from other people, they're so good at starting an angle and it hooks you in immediately. And then as soon as you're hooked in, it's like they don't know where to go after that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
And actually, Jake Hager had just said this in his sit down where he took some shots at AEW. But one of the things that he did mention in there is that they from the get go, he praised them for they come in hot with a storyline, but they quickly lose their focus and direction, and they'll start something without knowing where they want to be for that payoff. And regularly we've heard is, when you write these stories, I'm sure you've been in plenty of creative rooms, that we regularly hear about starting at the finish and working back to the start.
That's exactly how it's supposed to happen. But there's such a disconnect now because, I mean, if we're talking about AEW, we're talking about the indies. Like, indies are struggling drawing people because there's not a lot of good writers that can tell a good story. And like take old wrestling, OLDE wrestling, who I wrestled for, it's wrestling as it was in the 1920s. There's over the top old timey characters. You don't need a story for that because it's just it's a one off and it's a spectacle, right? But and he takes it on the road. But if you are a Fed that's operating in like a circuit, like a little territory, or let's say you're in the same building every week, the storytelling and the story writing is so non-existent now. It's really tough to capture the casual fan and bring it in. Dusty Rhodes said it. Bill Watts has said it. Personal issues draw money. Whether it's the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, or Stone Cold and Vince McMahon, or the NWO versus tradition, or whatever. If it's a personal issue, people are interested. The wrestling doesn't even have to be, for lack of a better word, that good. It just has to be intense. It just has to be like, okay, I'm fighting this dude for a reason. I'm fighting Richard because Richard stole my girlfriend. I'm fighting Richard because he pushed my mom over in her wheelchair. I'm fighting Richard because, you know what I mean? But like, it's got to be something people can relate to and they understand. And they're like, Richard's a jerk. I want Chimera to tear him to pieces. Now, how do we get to that match where I get my revenge? And it might be a little while, but that's the issue again with AEW is like things go, but then they never really. Here's what's missing. It just clicked. The baby faces don't want to get heat put on them. They don't want to look weak. They don't want to look like they're in trouble. They don't want to look like
vulnerable. And you need they don't want to seem vulnerable is what you're getting.
Right. And that works like very, very rarely. Think about, and we're talking about this, think about how good Hulk Hogan was. You're 6'8" and you're 325 pounds and you're still able to sell so well that you're fighting from underneath. And he would let people get heat on him. Andre ripping the chain off, Earthquake crushing him on the Brother Love show. He was not afraid to get beat down in every single segment leading up to his big, I'm going to slay this dragon, right? You know what I mean?
And that's when you'd bring 93,000 people to their feet because it's the comeback. And as a wrestling fan, I always say, wrestling is at its absolute best when it mirrors society, when it takes the problems of the world and lets us live vicariously through those, with Stone Cold and Vince. We can't go beat up our boss, but everybody would tune in to live through Stone Cold. And most wrestling fans, they're the ones out there cracking a few six packs, throwing them back, giving a hell yeah, having a good time. But they'd live through Stone Cold to go out there and whoop the boss.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. And that was, that dynamic was interesting to people because you're right. there's millions of people out there that want to punch their boss in the face or give them a stunner or, use a car to smash their car in the parking lot. Whatever that looks like, that's what people are interested in. And you can only see, and I think he's a great athlete. Two dudes I think are great athletes. Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, tremendous athletes, not pro wrestlers. I hate saying that because I don't want people to think I'm like admonishing or hating on them. What I'm just getting at is that they are good at what they do, but why should I care about them? You know what I'm saying?
Where's the connect? They're amazing athletes, movesets
Right.
and rope work, baby, but where's our connection?
Yeah, why? It's not Japan. In Japan, they treat wrestling like a real sport. They report on it like a real sport. I mean, they know it's a work, but it's treated in that ecosystem of, okay, that's like the NFL or that's like the MLB or the NBA, whatever. In America, we don't treat wrestling that way, so the majority of the audience doesn't care. I think about like the hottest stuff in the last 2 years or so. What's the hottest stuff been? Dominic Mysterio went from being a goof and a nobody. In my opinion, he is right there ready to challenge for the world title. And it's specifically because they did such a magnificent job of telling stories around his relationships to women. Him and Rhea, they were annoying. Then they finally got over because Rhea got over. And then now we introduce Liv Morgan into the triangle. Then he turns on Rhea and goes with Liv and the crowd. You go back, that was last year's, not this SummerSlam, that was last year's SummerSlam. That crowd is standing up, they're jumping up and down. And now you're doing the same thing with Roxanne Perez to a degree. And they're still into it. It's basically the same story, but it's a personal issue. And people can relate to either a man that's cheating on a woman, or here's a woman who wants a man and now she's interloping or whatever. It's all that personal stuff that the crowd is really into. You know what I'm saying?
Or, with Dom too, he's that slime ball. He just has that look, and he's that guy. How's he getting this girl? How's he getting the hot blondes? How's he getting this
Exactly.
Amazon, goddess getting the hot blonde? And you just want to see him. You pay to see people like that get punched in the face because you can't do it yourself, or you're going to jail.
And the crowd has, you're right. And the crowd has a wonderful love-hate with that guy. His music hits, huge pop, everybody's standing. He gets to the ring, starts talking. They're booing him so loudly that you can't hear him talk. That is just that's a perfect, he's doing great work. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He's great. But if it wasn't for that story, would we be even talking about this kid? No, because they hated that kid's guts for what? 2 years. They thought he was a tool bag when he was tagging with his dad. But he got over as a babyface because his dad is probably one of the top 5 baby faces of all time. And then, he turns heel and they're kind of like, whatever, give him a story. And now everybody has big feelings about him, if that makes sense.
Now, again, you're out traveling. You pulled a double yesterday. I know you got a busy schedule coming up here. Let me ask you, you're a veteran. And I know, on social media, you're very vocal in trying to give advice to help the generation that's coming up. What we're talking about, what people are watching, how they're consuming their wrestling. What are the indie locker rooms? What are the kids talking about? What are they watching? Are they even talking wrestling?
I mean, if you want to take the gloves off and shoot, like if they were born after the year 1998 and it happened before 2005, it didn't happen.
So there's all those years, the history, the foundation that we've learned, that we've come up and we've loved, it's non-existent.
It's tough on the indies, and we could talk about this one for 5 hours, but you try to watch them. What's been really interesting to see, and I know we're going to get into it in just a minute here, a lot of them now are these kids that are like, 23, 24, 25, they're very passionate and excited about the return of AJ Lee. Because that's who they grew up with and grew up around. And that was kind of like AJ Lee kind of came in at a time where the divas were kind of dying out. And then like women's wrestling was really starting to kind of take off a little bit. So, and by a little bit, I mean, compared to now, like to me, I think the women's WWE division is one of the best divisions in all of wrestling. Like their matches are just incredible with the different styles and the speed and the intensity. It's a long way from when we were watching the Attitude Era with the bra and panties matches and all that kind of stuff. But they're starting, I think, to understand the nostalgia piece. But like when I talk to them about like Medusa or Ricky Steamboat or whoever, they know the name, but they don't know the significance of it. You know what I mean?
Okay. So I mean, they're not really doing the home, which is funny to me. You think these schools would be kind of preaching that, giving them match lists, and it's so available now, that we did have the whole catalog over there on Peacock. I know it's a little up in the air what's going on, but even now they're launching the WWE history YouTube page where you can go find all this stuff to study that and to look at not just the matches, but the characters and the storytelling and all that.
We, as fans, I remember, when you get to like 1999 WCW, we're like, oh, that was garbage. That was terrible. Back in the day, that's how we felt about it. It was the NWO was tapering off. They didn't know what they were doing. They brought in Vince Russo, but you go back and watch those shows and compare it to indie or AEW now. Like, this is a great wrestling show. Like, the wrestling is fantastic, and it's really good stuff. Like, I was posting the other day. I was like, man, I watched I was doing just I call it study roulette. So I'll sit here and I'll bring up Peacock and I'll take my PlayStation controller. I'll close my eyes and then boom, whatever I land on. I think it was like Uncensored 99. It was Billy Kidman versus Mikey Whipwreck was the opener. Phenomenal match. They did all the fast-paced, high-flying stuff, but the difference was they told a story around the match. And when someone did a move to somebody else, they sold it. Like they did a spot where Mikey jumped on Billy Kidman on the floor. They were out on the floor till almost the 10 count. They were working their way in and out. It wasn't like it is now where the younger kids are watching not even Ring of Honor, like Revolver and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that that's not good. I'm just saying they want to be a style of wrestler that gets attention, and they don't want to work on the storytelling promo character aspect of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest fears with the kids today is they're looking at this and thinking, well, we've got to keep the pace. You've got to keep moving, but everybody's just doing the same thing. No one is, it seems, brave enough to be different. And that's what's selling on these cars, selling these shows are the individuals that will stand out, be a different character, have a different moveset, slow it down a little bit, let the audience digest what's happening, around them.
It takes 5 to 7 seconds for the audience to understand what's happening. And that's not a bad thing. That's okay, we did a move. What's the significance of it? That's why it's important to tell a story and sell and go slower than you think. But if you hit me with a Canadian destroyer and I pop up and I hit you with a choke slam immediately, what did either one of those moves mean to the audience?
Zip.
Nothing. And we just both took every time you leave your feet in wrestling, you can die. It doesn't matter if it's a leg sweep, a body slam, whatever. So to do a high risk maneuver, 2 of them back to back, and just don't give the audience a chance to understand what's going on, how can we expect them to really care about that? And the reason why they do that is because they don't care about what the audience says. or thinks. What they think is, I'm going to do this move, and then I'm going to put it on a reel, and then I'm going to post it on my social media, and that's going to get me attention on the internet, and then maybe I'll get booked somewhere else. That's the psychology, for their psychology.
Yeah, it is a shame, and I know there's veterans out there like you that are preaching to, you're blue in the face about, the fundamentals, how to get out there and work, get yourself booked, how to get, bring a crowd to the feet, how to actually just put asses in the seats, which is the most important thing to the promoters. But Ben, you kind of hit on there, and let's just go ahead. Usually we the regular formats, we go through some headlines and we hit the SmackDown on the backside and kind of look at what happened. But SmackDown is what everybody is talking about. It is the return of AJ Lee, damn near 15 years in the making. And you had kind of talked about that a lot of these kids in these locker rooms today, and I think this is going underappreciated, that AJ had such a big impact on them as young wrestling fans. And she was kind of that flag bearer for someone that wasn't a catalog model that they were recruiting into WWE at that time, that AJ actually loved professional wrestling. She came up trained with Jay Lethal, made her way through the indies, hoping to get that opportunity in a world of magazine models. She was a different mold, the precursor to a lot of what we've seen with the women's evolution. And there's women inside of WWE right now in NXT. Roxanne Perez, who just got called up, that absolutely idolized her. And you get a lot, and I'm sure you've seen this on the internet, checking out these different circles. There's a lot of middle-aged guys that don't get that are into movesets and rope work, and that don't see the importance or the impact that she had. And I do have a few that I wanted to share, and I found dozens of examples, but these three really popped out to me. Three young ladies that are doing amazing things on the indies. We both know, have had opportunities to work with here. And these jumped out. And this is perfect examples of what AJ Lee meant to this upcoming group of young female performers in professional wrestling. One here, one of my absolute favorites, Miss Riley Matthews, the Neon Glow. AJ Lee is back. That fact that I'm even typing this right now is crazy. My life feels so complete. I'm so happy. I haven't stopped crying. Another young one right here in the Cincinnati, Casey Clay. Words can't describe how much this means to me. And one I know that you've worked with quite a bit, and she's out there doing amazing things on the rise. She's international right now. And Shauna Reed, did I wake up and buy AJ Lee merch today? Yes, I did. And that's what it is. Just three big examples, great names right there that people keep your eyes out for. If you haven't heard them, you're going to see their faces. They are great talents there. But again, AJ spoke to an entire crop of people that decided to chase their dreams. And that is the emotional effect that we get with her return.
I agree with you there. I'm always careful with what I say because people get mad at me when I talk.
Hey, not on this platform, brother. we got Hamin's name on the door, and he shoots on everything.
So the AJ Lee to me is very, very representative of the Ultimate Warrior. Of course, she's better in the ring than he is, but the character of AJ Lee seems to resonate with people more than the in-ring stuff. I was sitting here thinking about it today because I was talking about it with someone backstage yesterday. Can I name a great AJ Lee match?
I could do that with a lot of people. I'm more of a moments guy, though.
Right. And she can deliver the moment. Her promos are good. Her interactions are good. When she came to the ring dressed as Nikki Bella that one time and did the promo with Nikki Bella, I mean, she even broke Brie because it was such a good impression of Nikki. Do you know what I mean? Like, even Brie's like in the background laughing at that. I was watching that earlier because I was like, man, what is the hook here? Because like you said, it's the moments with her. And it's the same thing kind of with the Ultimate Warrior. People are like, people remember and love the Ultimate Warrior character. Did he have I mean, of course, at the end, he was able to like hug Hogan, hug Vince, mend those fences. But up until that point, he was a very difficult human being to work with. But the warrior character, what that meant to so many people, like even our age, like we did the Ultimate Warrior show, a couple months ago. That was one of the ones we got the most fan mail about, the most emails about. Oh, I loved the Warrior did this. And it seems like AJ Lee is kind of like that same cut from that same cloth. Do you think I'm on the right track with that or not really?
I at first I was kind of like, where were we going here? But it makes perfect sense, and it is as a young fan, and I was a little warrior. Over Hulkamania, I was one that would take the shoelaces out of my shoes, drive my mom crazy. I could tie them, I get the tassels, run around in my tidy whities, and have my mom paint my face, shaking everything like it was the ropes. Absolutely.
Right. And to your point earlier, when my allergies are killing me, I'm so sorry. But to your point, like you look at Casey and you look at Riley and you look at Shauna, and they were all 10 years ago, they were all 14, 15, 16 years old. And to see someone like AJ, you're right, that wasn't, and people will, can I say profanity here or no? Is it profanity?
Yeah.
Well,
not
people,
too much, though.
I'll change it. People will take a dump like on, trying to think about the best way to say it. It's about what the character means to you. People will take a dump on people like the Ultimate Warrior and be like, oh, he couldn't wrestle. I can name 5 amazing Ultimate Warrior matches off the top of my head. But you're right. Most of the time it was like, oh, no, he's trapped in the casket. Oh, no, he's throwing up black blood. Oh, no, he's going through Jake the Snake's gauntlet of fear, or whatever. It was the buildup that was better than the match most of the time with the Warrior. And I think that that's kind of the same thing with AJ Lee. And people will take a dump, too, on someone like Kelly. If you're a 20-year-old or 19-year-old Barbie Blank and you're in a couple of bikini catalogs and someone calls you up and says, we're going to give you $500,000 to be on this TV show a year, well, why is it her fault that she took the deal? It's not her fault. You know what I mean? Like, of course you're going to take the deal. And yeah, she learned how to be competent there in the ring, but AJ was the first one to break the barrier and be like, okay, you're right. It's not a catalog model. She's not a bikini model. She's just like a normal girl who works out and who's really good at creating that aura around her, that character, that mystery, whatever you want to say. Not mystery in the sense of like she's mysterious, but like the anticipation of wanting to see what she's going to do next. She's great at that. Great at that. I'm very interested to see where she's going to fit in. They showed. Did you see the contract signing? Like Triple H, they showed the contract signing, and that was cool. But like, go ahead, bud.
Go ahead.
It'll be interesting to see if this is kind of more of a one-off, or if they're just going to stick her back in the rotation and kind of see how she goes and what sort of mileage can they get out of her.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to talk about the creative aspect here, but I did just want to kind of exclamation point on the impact of her return. And also think that AJ Lee is one of those, in much way like that Bret Hart doesn't get the credit for the dawning of the Attitude Era. And we're talking about those big moments with her in so many ways. And it was not a spectacular match, but it was a huge pop, a moment when she took that loss the night after WrestleMania to Paige, and almost like a passing of the torch is one of the cliches in wrestling. And it was like, okay, Paige, you know what? We're going to leave these magazine models behind. You're going to lead the wave, pave a new direction for the women's evolution right now. And we saw Paige do that for the likes of a Charlotte, for Mercedes, for Becky, and everybody that we've seen today. And you can really say that the big bang happened that Monday night after WrestleMania. In just that moment.
I agree with you. Like, to me, like you're right, because it ushered in that era of Charlotte, Bianca, Becky, Rhea, and like, whereas they were just kind of, I don't want to say relegated to NXT, That's where they started, obviously, as a developmental, but like like once they got the stage, because of what AJ Lee was able to accomplish, they had the confidence. I mean, can you imagine if you and I, like, sitting here in 2008 and someone saying to us, the women's match is going to close WrestleMania?
I don't think anyone had that on their bingo card for, the next 50
Ever.
years.
Ever.
Yeah.
But holy cow, what a match. What a match. And every time the women have an opera, we were talking about our WrestleMania watch along, the recap. Like, that women's triple threat wasn't just a great triple threat with Naomi and Io and Rhea. Like, it wasn't just a good women's match. That might be one of the best triple threats of all time. It was such a great match. You wouldn't have any of that if it wasn't for AJ being like, all right, we're done with the TNA, T and A, not TNA, but T and A. We're done with this. We're wrestlers now. And she, you're right, was the ground zero epicenter of that. And I understand the significance. Of like what that is for, especially for women like Riley and Shauna and Casey and everybody else who's been a fan. It's such a significant thing to them, and I get it, and I respect it.
Let's talk about the creative behind this. First and foremost, has she aged at all? Look at her; she looks just like she did the day that she left. Exactly like I remember, looking fantastic there. But when she was gone, she was pretty much gone there. And obviously, in the recent years, some involvement there with WoW. Doing great. I actually, we're talking about what I watch. I watch WoW too. It is one of my favorite shows. I catch it on syndication here on Saturday nights in Cincinnati.
It's an interesting show. It's not bad.
I like that it's different in the characters and all of that, and the way that they present it, the way they shoot it. But another conversation. We get this on Friday night. I had been harping all week that I felt that WWE missed the boat. Absolutely striking why the iron is hot creatively by not having what we saw Friday on SmackDown happen Monday in Paris. The way I would have laid it out immediately after Clash, I would have, used the social media, do all that hype, getting those wheels turning. But say we received footage. We got word that TKO had a request for a private jet. We got footage of Wheels Up, a 13-hour nonstop from O'Hara to Paris, because you could do it. I actually went and did the math to make sure I wasn't crazy in my creative here. So, and you could have had AJ show up there in Paris. And I know, we were talking earlier, WWE's about that pop, that moment. They want that Chicago. You were going to get that pop anywhere in the world, especially internationally. That crowd would have went berserk. My issue with the Monday was that you didn't have any comeuppance. One, you emasculated CM Punk in my eyes. It was almost, I was sitting there longing for the Attitude Era days. Like, 30 seconds of flapping her gums, she would have been eating a stutter or a go to sleep, especially if she put her hands on Punk. But I understand you can't do those days anymore. But like we just said, we have an entire locker room of girls that would step up for AJ, that love CM Punk. We see the selfies that they take. You're telling me nobody would have stepped up to help there? I understand you want that AJ moment. So they understand so much that Monday was kind of a wash. They came out and just reenacted that entire thing, but inserted the AJ introduction into it. But the place went berserk. And as we just showed, just a few of the tweets, there's hundreds to thousands of those same reactions out there on the internet when they saw her.
Yeah. I mean, and you're right about the creative. It's like, it's just finding the right moment to spring the pop, right? And to their credit, they're allowing the babyface to get heat put on him by the female heel, which is Becky. With the emasculation part, you're right. Let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Is there anybody in that locker room currently with an emotional tie to AJ that could have run out there, gotten Becky's face, and Becky just completely squash? and bloody, not even bloody because they'll never do that, but completely trash. Get the girl on the gurney, get her wheeled out. She's too hurt, and now AJ's back with triple revenge. It's just you're right. There was no emotional tissue there other than CM Punk trying to be a white meat babyface. Like if that was Cody Rhodes, that would have worked. Because Cody's like the white meat babyface, the white hat. I'm never going to hit a woman. CM Punk is not that guy. He's the Stone Cold, if you're going to compare him to anybody now. And that's why I think you felt the way you felt. And it wasn't going to work because it wasn't going to work, but it was going to be flat-ish because you're right. He should have hit her with the GTS or something. Or even if he would have just snatched her up and then Seth was right there to clip him. Like
that's what I would have done. If you're not going to have anybody interact, because real quick, the girls that I would have, and we've seen her in the segment before. You're over in Europe, so she's going to get a pop, and they've been trying to get her over. Is Lyra Valkyrie? They've struggling to get her over. She's got that beef with Becky. She's that old school, and I know she can't challenge, but she could be like, I know I can't challenge, but I could whoop your ass anywhere in the world. I'm going to follow you around. You could have done that there. I understand. Roxanne Perez, I would even maybe inserted her, but I understand you got plans down the line with Liv's return. You don't want to interfere there. Just what you suggested there, Ben. Just have Punk scoop her up for the GTS. Becky said, I could just because Becky did a magnificent job both nights. She's gangbusters now in her character work, doing great.
Amazing.
But what that would have done, Punk having Becky up, who's down the ramp? Who's hiding? Seth. Now, is the coward husband going to actually come help his wife, or is he out for his best interest? Now you've got a dilemma that you put the heel in. And then you could just have Punk drop her and just walk away at that point.
That, or, he's got her up. He turns the entryway. Here comes Seth starting to run down. He drops Becky. Here comes Braun and Bronson from behind.
Well, remember, they were banned. I believe so. Weren't they?
During the promo? Point? Oh, you're right. They were.
Yeah, because they had taken out Roman earlier, so they were banned from it.
You're right.
No, were they banned that night? But in either case, I can't remember when they got banned with, but there was things you could do. But as just mentioned over here in the chat, Rabbi saying Vince Russo just talked about this here. Triple H is now the king of pops. They wanted that big pop moment, and they absolutely got that in Chicago.
They are. Triple H, I like a lot of what he's doing because
do you?
He's going against the formula. You know what I mean? Go ahead. I'm sorry. You
okay. Well, I was going to ask you here because I did have this. It's going to work this into the conversation. I feel because they know they've got record gates, financials are out of this world right now. What they've got going on, I think they're riding so high that creatively they know they only have to hit it like 30-40% at best at what we're getting here.
They've got to create the pops to create, because it's a new way of advertising. Because like back in the day when you and I were watching wrestling, we had to wait. Now 24/7 people don't have to wait for access to wrestling. So we're going to create a moment. And that's why they do this online, and it works to their benefit. Brock Lesnar's return had 50 million streams in 24 hours. Like, that's great. And that tells like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, hey, we're a hip product. We're hot. You need to watch us to see what's going to happen next. So while they're targeting Gen Z and Gen Alpha now, I don't want to say they're alienating guys like us, but like, we have to come into a new way to understand how that generation consumes their media, because you and I had to wait and let it stew, and we let that excitement stew. And when something big happened, bam, we're up for it. Now this generation needs bam, 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 bam. You know what I mean? They need that constant dopamine hit in order for it to be exciting to them. And to Lab Rat's point in there, Triple H being the king of pops, It's because that's all they have. All they have now is just pops. You know what I mean?
That's what they sell, the spectacle and the pop and
Right.
that moment. But what is interesting though, when you look at we were talking about advertising. I would love to see what they're really spending in the bots to get a lot of those hits here, because they're not really focusing in their advertising on their social media clips, or they'd be working in a lot more of that there. So it speaks to the old school of selling your ads on your programming. There's a lot of programming on a lot of platforms now. And we can have that covered. Everyone's been hot about that you need 5 or 6 platforms for WWE alone right now. We're both big NFL guys. There's 8 or 9 if you want to watch every NFL game.
You're exactly right about that. You're more than exactly right about that. You have Sunday Ticket on YouTube, or you have to watch, I'm about to watch a Lions game here in a couple hours. That's Paramount Plus. To me, though, I think the issue is that TKO underestimates the current wrestling fan. The current wrestling fan is not a sports fan. They're not a sports fan. So when they see $29.99 for ESPN, if you're a sports fan, that's really a good deal. All the PLEs, Sports Center, Monday Night Football, $29.99 a month for that is a good deal. People forget you and I used to pay $40 a month to watch a pay-per-view. And when WWE, WCW was hot, or even when it turned into TNA was $10 a week to watch on pay-per-view. That was a $40 a month bill plus 30 to, and even WrestleMania at one point was $70. You remember that? When WrestleMania got up to 70, that was 70 to watch that. And then it's just this generation, I don't want to say they're spoiled, because spoiled isn't the right word. They were born at the beginning of streaming. So okay, the WWE network's $10 a month and I get all this stuff. Oh, that's easy pickings, right? Or even when you and I first started watching Netflix, when Netflix started streaming in 2013. Well, why should I do that? Well, it's got all these first run movies you'd see on HBO, and then they have good shows like House of Cards or Orange is the New Black. They had these big hit shows people like to watch for $7 a month. Are you kidding me? Well, what's Netflix now? It's almost $30 a month, right? Just to watch Netflix. So I understand their pain, but they've trained themselves to expect it to be next to nothing, because they were born and started watching when people were trying to get spoon-fed streaming and get people off cable and onto streaming, if that makes sense. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. And and that is the big thing, the gamble, as you'd mentioned, how many wrestling fans are sports fans. I jumped at it. I was like, hey, I love this. This is great for me. I can use this app all the time. Right now they do have it bundled with Disney Plus and Hulu as well.
Yeah.
Which for $30, you get 3 services. Seems like a bargain to me, but I think you're right. It's just that price range scares the crap out of everybody, especially when they were just coming off paying whatever for Peacock and they remember the network being so cheap. Be interesting to watch that long term. But to come back here real quick, for AJ Lee, you were talking about it. Is this a one-off? Are we just going to get the mixed tag match? I mean, because to me, this is something that hopefully has some legs to it that they'll extend out, because it is relatable. Couples fighting.
Yes.
So that's relatable there. We talked about an old regime. There's not many people left on this roster that actually wrestled AJ Lee. So there's a lot of new potential for matches, for stories. One of the stories that I'm looking for, I hope that we can get, is an involvement with Roxanne Perez being a Uber fan, and maybe turns into a little Fatal Attraction situation where you get Punk involved. I think there's a lot of potential there. So I think there is a lot of legs to have a year run for AJ Lee in the company.
You're right, because, it's just with wrestling psychology, it's everything that's old can be new again. Yes, it is sponsored by the ESPN. I'm very biased.
We got Mr. ESPN Radio with us here today,
ESPN employee. I'm very biased.
We've got here on our own platform, MSG, Maddie, that works on our platform here. He is a master controlman at the mother station. So he works up there.
Right. So, yeah. So, I get that price point, but you're right with AJ Lee. Like, you basically, how hot was Hogan and Macho Man? Wait for it, in WCW. They'd wrestled hundreds of times in the WWF, but you wrap a new package around it in a new place, and all of a sudden it's completely fresh. AJ has not. The only person I can think that she had maybe an interaction with off the top of my head, and I have to research this, is maybe Alexa Bliss.
Maybe some right? Bliss stuff. I know she's had matches with Naomi, who will be on the show for a while, and Natalia. But maybe Bliss would have been maybe on the cusp of that. So a little interaction there. But, there's a whole crop of talents.
But, this is bad to say because I'm analyzing bodies. AJ is good, but she's very diminutive. Do you run her at Rhea? Do you run her at Charlotte? Do you run her? You know what I mean? Like, who do you run her at? Roxanne would be the very good, and it would be the first easy pick. But let's say you get through Roxanne and then you get on to somebody else. Like, until she took time off, I was looking forward to AJ and Naomi, because I think that would be, right there. Like, the story built in right there is Naomi has finally reached, in my opinion, in the last 12 months, goddess status. Naomi has proven herself through her phenomenal work on the microphone with the character stuff in the ring, as every bit as a star as Charlotte or Rhea or whatever. I don't want to say, unfortunately, her momentum's killed because she's pregnant, because they're a very happy family. It seems like she's got a good relationship there, and that's great.
It was not good timing.
But it's not good professional timing. Right, exactly. Like, you're finally there, and now you're out for a year, basically, because not only does she have to have the baby, I hope that goes well, but then also you've got to recover, you've got to get back in shape, there's all that different stuff. So it's tough because of AJ being so diminutive. Alexa Bliss makes sense. Roxanne Perez makes sense. But could you really see AJ Lee versus Raquel Rodriguez?
Well, I think whoever you pair her up with, what we're really going to get, maybe not a Raquel, because Raquel isn't going to be able to maybe up that game, especially, AJ's been gone for a while. Is up there in some age, but whoever she works with, AJ is going to lend an opportunity for growth in the character work. And now one of the names, even with Rhea, I think she can help Rhea out a lot there. One of the names, as we're talking this out, now I'm hoping she sticks around, because I really want to see her with Liv Morgan in some kind of program. I think that would be phenomenal. You talk about Naomi hitting on all these cylinders before her injury. I would argue for Liv to have been the standout all-star of the entire company over the last year and a half.
I agree with you 100% there. Liv Morgan has by quietly, I mean, like, respect-wise, she's quietly been like the MVP. Like, she was just like another pretty blonde until they gave her that Dominic story, and then she has just taken that opportunity and ran with it.
We get a lot of preaching here from Rip Rogers, and it takes 10 years. It's about that bump card, 10 years to get this business. But Rip would joke, but by the time you understand it, your body's broken down on you and you're screwed anyway. But it was like Liv. We got to watch her go from a girl to a woman in this business, where she started to figure out how, even her body language inside of a match. She figured out, she understands who she is as a character and how everything has to make sense. And she's, before the injury, magnificent. Look forward to have her back. Her and AJ, I think, would be phenomenal in a program together.
I agree with you. It would be a lot of really great microphone work. It would be a lot of really great character work. It would just be so much story. You know what I mean? And
I'm a story guy.
I'm a story guy too. Maybe that's our generation, how we grew up, but personal issues draw money, and really the winner out of that, obviously could be Liv, but like if they pivot from Seth and Becky and they pivot to Dom and Liv, that's something. Dominic and CM Punk could really get Dominic over to the point where it's like, all right, this is the guy now. Because I know this sounds like a lame prediction, but we talk about it on the show all the time. They got a lot of awesome main event guys right now. A lot. Issue is all of them are over 40 years old. And that's not to say they're not good or competent or whatever. They're awesome. Punk's 46 or 48, something like that. Damian Priest, love that dude. I think he's great. 44. McIntyre, 44. You go down the list. AJ Styles, almost 50. And that's not me trying to diss them, but what I'm trying to say is who do you build around long term? Because it's time for those guys at the top. Even Jey Uso's 43 or 44. So like those guys at the top are great and they're performing on such a high level, but who's generation next, if you will? Who are the guys who are going to take it? Obviously Bronson and Braun, maybe Grayson Waller, maybe Austin Theory, if they really kind of get behind him again. Dominic is a guy who's going to be there for a good long time. He's in his mid-20s. But now who do you use? Excuse me. Who do you use to get him over? That AJ Lee CM Punk feud, if they pivot to Liv, and that could be something good. That's a good idea.
Do you think, we talk about, these top names inside of WWE, they're around, as Zane says here, he thinks that the Usos are right around barely 40, but still at around that mark there. All the other names we said that are up there. Is this a growing problem in WWE that they're not creating more stars? They haven't really created a mega star in a long time.
The last megastar they had was not even a megastar till 2 years ago, and that was Roman Reigns. And like Roman Reigns, they did such a good job of smashing him over, having him have the belt for 2 years.
4 years.
4 years. I mean, the guy was, but honestly, did the audience even respect that guy until he lost the belt and went away and came back?
Well, it was a lot of he's not here every week. It's the same, interference. They're running the same pattern every time. And just a lot of bitching and moaning.
It's not a diss on Roman Reigns because I think he's fantastic. But like even him with all his health issues, he's in his 40s, Hollywood's calling, he's got a big role in the Street Fighter movie. He's on the cusp of doing other things and becoming an attraction. And the $1 million question is who's the next guy who's going to emerge as a big star? The answer is, I don't know what to tell you. Because like it is a growing problem because who are you going to get? I thought Austin Theory was like on the cusp of the breakout. When you're working with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon and they're like, this is the guy. And then, Vince has his issues, goes away, and then Austin Theory just is doing backstage skits with New Day.
Well, yeah, now he's disappeared since they split him with Waller. It was almost like that association that chosen one by Vince would backfire was a punishment for him. And you got to believe too. It's I always say it goes back to Hulkamania when Hulk left and Vince realized, holy crap! I mean, the Hulkamania brand rivals the WWF brand. He didn't want that ever again. There was even limitations against Rock and Stone Cold. Even Cena wasn't allowed to kind of hit that level. In today's atmosphere with the business model that they've got, it's plug and play. If you go down, we've got someone ready to go. You're just with groupie of superstars. It's about the WWE brand. You look at who does the voiceovers, who's doing the appearances. It's Triple H. It's not a talent.
And it's because, for better or for worse, Triple H carries the weight of the company. Like he is the standard bearer who's there, and he's the one he's Dana White. He's the Dana White of WWE.
They make that comparison, but I also say too, when the time comes, and there's someone that needs to fall on a sword, TKO is going to make sure that's Triple H. Because at some point, this bubble will burst. They're not going to be able to continue to charge these prices, stress out at this audience that they are. At some point, this bubble will burst. And for Triple H, unfortunately, he's going to be the one that falls on that sword.
People, you're right about that. And because people don't realize, I don't take a dump on anybody until they've been found guilty in a court of law. Present the evidence, jury of your peers. So whatever you want to say about Vince McMahon, okay, whatever. Vince would run a WWE show in a VFW hall and charge $15 a ticket because the guy promoting wrestling is that guy's life. Promoting wrestling is not TKO's life. If that bubble bursts and those ratings go down, WWE is now in a position where it's just like any other TV show. If this ain't performing, we're canceling it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I can see here probably in the next year or two, I know this sounds like a wild prediction, I thoroughly believe that Disney is going to make a bid to buy WWE from TKO. And the reason for that is the content, the attraction of adding a WWE studio exhibit physical Hall of Fame
WWE World
to Disney, to the Disney portfolio, like a physical Hall of Fame. Because, you know, I know I'm an old man or whatever, but I loved this. I went to WWE World in Times Square back when I was super green. I loved it. You had a Ric Flair robe, and you could put your hand in Andre the Giant's handprint, and you could put your shoe in his footprint, and it was all sorts of cool museum type stuff that and artifacts you could see. That would be a huge draw for Disney. They would be all over it. And, you know, Zane Vicious, you hit the nail on the head there, buddy. WWE.
They're going. ABC. I would say within 5 years, WrestleMania will be on ABC.
Yeah, I just think that that's where things are going, because the name of the game with streaming and everything like that now is content. And that's why they're surviving right now. That's how they're surviving.
TKO is going to know when that bubble's about to burst, and that's when they're going to sell. They'll get out a little bit before that. Yep. It'll be someone else's issue. But we are talking about superstars. Let's change some gears. Let's talk about some known draws, some household names, and they were treated to. And this was a big night in Chicago. Not just AJ Lee's return, but we have got the Beach is off his leash. Brock Lesnar. We haven't seen him since SummerSlam. He comes out and, no pun intended here, pisses all over Sammy and John Cena's party. Let's talk about the setup here real quick, because a great treat there for the audience in Chicago. Again, the Cena retirement tour is about paying homage to the past and all that. So we get a little salute to when John Cena had the U.S. Championship Open Challenge. Sammy's out with a challenge of his own. These guys go out and have a hell of a spot fest. Get after it kind of match here. We get a bunch of paybacks in there. We had the angle slam,
the tribute to the fact that he went through everybody he feuded with, all their finishers. Brilliant storytelling.
But we even had the Kevin Owens, the pop-up power bomb, the angle slam. We had the avalanche attitude adjustment. I mean, there was a number, as you said, of just throwbacks. We set up for a GTS in there that Zane kicked out.
He hit it.
Yeah, he did hit it. Zane kicks out of it. It was the RKO that he had missed, that he went through, that he went for and missed. So we got all these callbacks. So even if that's not your style of wrestling, those Easter eggs make it fun for that old school fan. So there's something there for everybody. But of course, we finally get him here. Lesnar is back. We also learned this is the last SmackDown for John Cena. Ben, talk about, you said you liked the match there. Talk about the creative here. Is it bothered you that we haven't, not just that Brock Lesnar's gone away, that's a regular with him, but there's barely been a mention or any kind of subtle build for this heat, this drama, this return for Lesnar versus Cena?
I don't understand it, because he's down to 7 more appearances. So really, it just seems like Zane Vicious says burying their finishers. Yeah, you could. If Cena was an active wrestler and he was going to stay an active wrestler, then I agree with the burial part. But it's the psychology of the moment is telling the story that Cena is now, and they should have told this story all along. Cena's the white hat cowboy, and he's cleaning up the streets with his gun before he says goodbye forever. The heel turn could have been the biggest thing that they've done to get somebody else over. But they dropped the ball. Like,
it was just a flop from the get-go.
The initial turn where he kicks Cody, just that scene of Rock standing shoulder to shoulder with John Cena and Travis Scott, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be great. This could be great. And what a lemon it turned out to be, because you've got one of the biggest stars in Hollywood with one of the biggest up-and-coming stars with Hollywood. And we're like, we're above this wrestling crap right now. We're going to tear that. We're going to just waltz through this thing. No one's going to stop us. Okay, well, now you have a chance to get a babyface over other than Cody or Jay. Who's going to step up and who's going to stand up for pro wrestling? Who's the young guy who's going to say, enough of this, John Cena. I'm going to put you out to pasture. That could have been great. We've not seen The Rock since that turn.
No. And from all indications, we're not going to see The Rock for a while.
Terrible. So you left Cena out there, and I'm not going to diss his work because like his heel mic work was great. And like finding the source of, oh, you guys took a dump on me for years when I was working so hard to keep this company afloat. And I was the only guy doing, and it's all the truth. And then you get to the point where nobody wants to boo him anymore.
Nobody wanted to boo him.
Because they understand, even the 18 to 35-year-old men who hated his guts, now they're like, okay, if this is really it, I don't want bad guy Cena. I don't want black hat Cena. I want the spinner belt. I want the rap battles. I want everything that I loved to hate or hated to love about John Cena to be back. And now you've got Brock Lesnar in there, and Brock's in his mid-40s. So if that's Cena's last dance, I gotta wonder what's the play and what's the point?
Obviously, a big payback, a big throwback here. Two big names draws. Let me throw this one at you. We're looking at a point here because a lot of these are just farewell kind of tour stuff for Cena.
Yeah.
Is this a major business grab for WWE? First PLE that's going to be on the ESPN app. We were talking earlier about, are wrestling fans going to make the jump to the ESPN app? Let's look at it from the other side of that. If I'm a sports fan, and I might not be into wrestling, but hey, I got this as a new option available for me on this awesome app I've got. I know the names John Cena and Brock Lesnar. I know they're two big-ass dudes, or enough of those people are going to be like, you know what? It's on the app. Let me check it out.
I think you made a really good point there. That's a really great point is, am I going to reignite the passion of like a 30-year-old man that when he was 15 years old, he liked John Cena? Am I going to reignite that passion for wrestling? I think that's a good bet that's kind of what the mentality is. But at the same time, with all of that, like, I know this will get us in the weeds. Isn't sports more like WWE now than ever?
I always scream that. I regularly hear that pro wrestling should be more sports in it. What the hell does that mean? I look at the NFL, I look at the NBA. They're trying. I always say the NFL out pro wrestles pro wrestling, because what do they have? They have the characters, the connection. They come up with the storylines. They create that drama. It's not about the X's and O's. Right. For 85 to 95% of the people that are out and about around America, you're hosting a Lions party today. Here we got the Battle of Ohio. They're rocking all over the state here. 85 to 90% of those fans that are going out, they don't understand the game of football. They understand the basics, go down the field, score a touchdown, you win on the scoreboard, but they're there for the spectacle, for the gathering, for the drinks, the eats, and cheering with their friends. That's what it's about.
Yeah, and WWE, I think, is trying to cultivate that. But it goes back to the other issue we talk about. John Cena is almost a 50-year-old man. Brock Lesnar's 40. He's in his 40s. I don't know how old he is, but it's like, what's the point of this? Who benefits from a final showdown between Cena and Lesnar? Like, there's no benefit.
I think the business side of it. Now, this is interesting. I want to work this into the conversation because Zane's saying here the Cena run should have been an ongoing talent evaluation.
Agreed.
Really?
Agreed.
Okay. I'm on the other side of this because I think it. Because he also had said he didn't like the idea that it was Sami Zayn. It should have been Carmelo Hayes in there. But let me counter this here. This evaluation thing. This is a farewell tour. If I'm going out to see my favorite band on a farewell tour, I don't want to see them playing new music. I want the classics. Yeah. I want the hits that I'm familiar with that are going to sell. Now, I'm okay with maybe working in a match here or there with a young talent to give them that rub that they were a part of the farewell tour. But I'm coming, like, I was hyped up. I loved when he went after Randy Orton. I was all about that. I'm somewhat invested in this Lesnar thing. I just think they've done a terrible job creatively. He was at SummerSlam, and now we barely make a mention of it, over all these weeks.
I think you're right about, like, you have a very good point there where it's like, but let me compare it to this. The final Nitro, no one had any idea what was going to happen next. Mm-hmm. We just know it's the final Nitro. So of course, we're going to close the show with Sting and Flair, right? If it was the last WWE bit of programming, even if it was a season finale, let's say, that run Cena and Lesnar at each other. The issue is that there's no off season for WWE. Whenever that last match happens, that following Monday, there's going to be a Monday Night Raw. So while you're right, there's a lot of really great, like him and Orton again, we talked about it a little bit earlier. It was great because now for the first time ever, Cena was the heel, Orton was the babyface, right? It's that new packaging. It's exciting. It's exciting to watch that. But ultimately, who is going to benefit in the long run? If you have no other talent that's over, how do you get them over? Like, Cena's last match should probably be versus Braun Breaker or Bronson Reed or somebody who's going to put him out to pasture for good and then be able to say, I'm the dude who retired John Cena. The problem is that you already know when his last match is going to be. So he's going to get to put out to pasture. Zane Vicious says, reach heads are great early on, but at some point new people got to be put over in true wrestling form. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like, you're right. You want to hear the greatest hits, but the show's still going to continue. So I wonder what the benefit is other than to get a big buy rate, if you will, or get a lot of streams or views. Other than that, what would be the point of Cena and Lesnar? And would Cena beat him? Or would Lesnar win? Or is Lesnar coming back full time? To me, Lesnar being on TV full time is a waste. He's better used as an attraction. Mm-hmm. He should be on what we call the Undertaker schedule in the business. All right, you got me for the Rumble, that's going to build a WrestleMania. Then I'll come back for SummerSlam. Then you'll get me in the Survivor Series, and then you won't see me again until the Rumble.
Maybe a big international show or something, but
right. Crown Jewel, whatever. It should be like a big fight atmosphere built around him, but does Brock Lesnar ever need to win another match?
Well, I think you need at some point, because fans will realize, all right, he's just back here for, he's not going to go over. Why should we get invested? You do want to keep that variety, that flavor of, okay, is he going to win? I guess the answer thing, for business wise, like in the ring, Brock and Cena don't do a lot, but this is something when you're selling to ESPN, it's going to look very sexy when you're in there with those executives.
Oh
and
yeah.
Say, hey, our first match, our first marquee main event is John Cena, Brock Lesnar. You know, if you go in there to them and say, hey, we got John Cena versus a Carmelo Hayes, they're going to look at what? Who?
Yeah.
we know one of those names.
Exactly right. You have to. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. If Cena's last match was versus Carmelo, people would be like, right now, people like, what?
Not a knock against Carmelo, great young talent, but right now,
but they've done nothing to build him up as like the guy who could dethrone John Cena. You know what I mean? Like,
and just throwing a name out there. It could be anybody. You know, one of the young
even if it's anybody, like even if it's Braun Breaker, that's like the only guy close enough to being over enough and significant enough that he would actually get something from beating John Cena in his final match. If they started right now building up Carmelo, okay, you split the Street Profits, you give Carmelo, and really this is a waste because Carmelo MVP together as MVP as his mouthpiece would have been gold. But they'd have to start building somebody new now to be the guy to take John Cena down. You're right. You know, you've got a great mind for promotions, and you're right. If they're sitting there in the office, hey, we got Cena and Lesnar, we got Punk and Rollins, and we got these big-time, big-name matches. My worry is just for the longevity, the health, the long-term health of the product, because I don't see a whole lot of dudes being like the next guy. And the main issue with that really too is like they're not hiring guys off the indies anymore. So who they're hiring is a basketball player, a gymnast, and that's worked with Tiffany Stratton very well. Tiffany Stratton didn't even know wrestling existed before they hired her.
Yeah,
but she's a freak athlete. And she's great. She's
Sol Ruka coming up through NXT is doing a hell of a job. She's a gymnast. I mean, so that's showing that sport is transitioning very well into professional wrestling.
It is definitely. But when you hire football players or people that have never seen pro wrestling before, who don't really have that passion for it, and the perfect example is Brock Lesnar. He's an amateur guy. He wasn't a showman. He wasn't an actor. He didn't grow up watching pro wrestling or liking pro wrestling. He grew up working on a farm and shoot wrestling people, you know, and he turned into a bit of a showman, you know, but like it took a while. And you look at his career, you know, he had 2 years where he was white hot. He was the top dude in the company. And then he's like, I don't have a passion for this. I'm going to go play for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yep. I'm going to try my luck here. That didn't work. I'm going to go try. I'm going to go back to what I know a little bit. I'm going to go to ground and pound. I'm going to UFC. Yep. You know,
and that built him up enough as a brand where he comes back to wrestling for big money. But like to me, that's a lottery scratch off. That was just luck. How do you get look at what they did with that Gable Stevenson guy? Good looking dude, great shape, fantastic amateur wrestler, but he just didn't get pro wrestling. Well, I'm going to go play for the Buffalo Bills now. You know, like it was kind of, and he's not back. He's not, you know, he hasn't expressed any interest. So
yeah, that was one of those that fell real flabby. You could tell he didn't get it, but that's a great transition because we are on a home stretch here. I know you got to get ready for the party. I want to catch a little bit of my dogs and my cats fighting here in Ohio. But let's talk about transitioning from an outside sport into professional wrestling and maybe not getting it in one round. Ronda Rousey, came in with a lot of star power, a lot of hype. Maybe not as welcome by the fans because, you know, it is kind of hard for a lot of pro wrestling fans to accept that outsider. But she did bring a lot of general audience attention, crossover. But she, in a recent few interviews here, she's had a few things to say. Let's see if I get these here. First, we'll start with this one here. And this is Ronda Rousey on Bliss. She's to paraphrase here. She was talking about how they wanted Becky Lynch here to tap her out, and Ronda was like, I can't do that. I've come from this other world where if someone had me in an arm bar, I'd rather them break my arm than ever tap out there. She also in that same interview was talking about this one here, that they had me working, fighting Alexa Bliss, and it was all effing ridiculous because Alexa Bliss was the top merchandise seller in the company. Well, I had to keep it on here because I love MJF's reply. It's almost like pro wrestling, much like any other professional sport, functions as a business. Is this another example of those from the outside that come in that, and for Ronda, never really got professional wrestling?
She's a superstar. Look, like people don't remember, like in her heyday, she was the top drawing MMA talent on the planet, not just amongst the women, on the planet. Anybody, she was the top draw. So for her to say that, I get it that she doesn't get it in a wrestling context, but like her career trajectory, because she is attractive and she does have a great body. She was in the ESPN body issue. She was a Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. She was in an Expendables movie. She was doing all this stuff because she's physically attractive and an incredible athlete. She should understand that from a business perspective, like, yeah, Alexa Bliss is 4'9" and 98 pounds. Ronda Rousey would just eat her like a chicken wing in a shoot, but it's not a shoot. We're telling a story. So for her MMA career to be done, and I think that she'd made a couple indie appearances after she left WWE. I think she did a Ring of Honor show.
I think she did a favor for Maria over there.
Yeah. So she did a couple of indie dates and stuff after getting her WWE release. But like, unless you come up in wrestling, you don't understand that, like, and I hate to be an old man here, but a lot of these kids don't understand. We have to serve the story. And when you deal with him, and you brought up Matt Riddle earlier, MMA people, football players, you have to serve the story. I could go out there right now, have a match with Alexa Bliss, and have her tap me out if we tell the right story around it. I'm not saying it's going to be 100% believable for a lot of people, but I could tell such a story with her where I could tap out to her and make it believable. So for Ronda Rousey to be like refusing finishes after being in a pro wrestling business for like 20 minutes, I mean, back in the day, she would have just, her bags would have been out in the hallway. You know what I mean? Like it would have, she just, but it's a different time.
That's interesting. Interesting you mentioned that, because I remember even having some conversations with some people a few years back. But I mean, you're a heavyweight, big dude. But on the indies, you got to work with different sizes. We have a much smaller crop of talent coming in. But even you said you're smart enough to realize some things are going to work, some are believable. But if asked, you can go out there and have the likes of like a Shauna Reed tap you out inside of a match. And I'm sure you've worked Shauna there at Future Great Wrestling.
That's what people wanted for the finish. If that's what the promoter wanted for the finish. Yeah, we're going to tell the right story around it, but I'm not going to refuse a finish on somebody from somebody. But it's just like everybody's now, and especially the way WWE is, they just kind of lost sight of pro wrestling, which makes me wonder. I know this is very deep at the end of the call, but like, it makes me wonder if pro wrestling even exists anymore, because it's a personal issue, like what I used before, between me and you. I'm the baby face, you're the heel. You're on me, you're on me, you're on me. I get a little bit back on you. That makes you even more mad. You're on me, you're on me, you're on me. We get to our match. You either take a shortcut to finish, or I finally slay the dragon. I know that seems cliche, but that's what works. And that's why I wonder if pro wrestling's dead, is because when I first started, we're wrestling in Montgomery County Fairgrounds, 400 people. I'm going down to Tupelo, Mississippi. I'm wrestling in front of 600 people. We're wrestling in front of all these people. And now it's like, a good indie show is like 100 people.
And people, and they're thinking that's, oh, what a great turnout. That's not the case.
No, it's not. Like
when you came in for HWA, you guys were on a Tuesday taping. We're pulling a couple hundred people. That's not your traveling blockbuster draw shows.
The traveling show was that crowd 350, 400 Red Barn Flea Market out in Batavia. There was another building that was an auction bar that was real big, real nice. That was 150, 200 people. Montgomery County Fairgrounds, always big. And I remember, it's funny, is there was a veteran, his name was Todd Morton. And when I was like, oh my gosh, there's like 400 people out there, he'd look through the curtain, he'd be like, oh, I don't like these down houses. Like 400 people, you think this is a down house? But he was like used to wrestling in the 80s and the 90s, where on the independent level, there would be upwards of 2,000, 3,000 people, because the focus was on the story. This is the story. This is why these two people are fighting. When's the last time you saw a great babyface turn? Even John Cena, God bless him. What was his babyface turn? Hey, I'm sorry for being a douchebag.
Oh my God, one of the worst ever. I couldn't believe it was really happening. Like this is that goes back to, like, this is how lazy your creative is. You don't even use the match with Cody to tell of John realizing his wrongs and start, seeing that he needs to come back. Oh, our creative was so bad for the last 7 months. We just want you to forget it right now. Just like kicking the Nintendo because the game's messed up. You need to start over here.
And that's a testament to how good John Cena is, because they embraced him right away.
Well, and I think it was how bad the move was to even turn him heel, because even how bad the creative was in the turn back, the fans just wanted that John Cena back so much they were willing to forgive it. And when his music hit there on SummerSlam, they went berserk, because it was the guy, the Make-A-Wish white cowboy wearing, John Cena that you described that everybody wanted.
You're exactly right. And as far as the creative goes, it's tough because there's no real solid heel turns. There's no real solid babyface turns. It's okay, we're going to cheer this guy now, we're going to boo this guy now. And they don't even really boo anybody except for Gunther. Like, that's the guy.
Gunther and Dom, and they're even starting to come around on those guys.
Right. They're cheering for him, and when they hit the ring, and then as soon as they start talking, they'll boo them. But it's not because I hate this guy. It's because, I'm supposed to boo him. I'm supposed to boo this guy, because they're standing up and jumping up and down on their intro, and then they switch their attitude. Like, it's almost like, I don't even know what to compare it to, but you talk about like the NFL. Like, think about all the great job, and whether people like it or not, or like, what a great job the NFL has done in the last 10 years creating a female fan base. More women now are into football than they've ever been. And they've done such a great job, for lack of a better word, ladies, don't be mad, I'm not trying to hate, spoon feeding the rules of the game, the storyline of the game. Oh, well, the Chiefs are pretty popular. They're like, and oh my God, that's Taylor Swift. And they, as a Bengals fan, and I watched last year's Chiefs and Bengals game. If I was a Bengals fan, I would be going through the TV screen at some point with those calls of the benefit of the Chiefs, like that PI at the end with the game-winning field goal. But what does that do? It's happened to the Lions for years. Now the Lions are cool, so they're getting some of the benefits, But before, even when they played well, or the Bengals played well, the referees were right there to yank it out from underneath them. And that makes you mad. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. They're literally they're out WWEing WWE right now. And they're doing it with storylines. And WWE is going away from storylines to the detriment of the business, in my opinion, because people aren't there for pro wrestling anymore. I want to yeet, I want I want to with EO. I want to,
the top heel in the company who's supposed to be Seth Rollins, and his value is in sing-alongs, not his moves or what he's bringing to it. His value is the pop and the sing-along.
If they really wanted him to be a heel, why aren't they changed his music at this point?
I did like that they changed Becky's, so you don't get that big pop with her anymore. But again, they don't want that. They want to have that visual of everybody that sing along to sell all of that. NFL again, out pro sports, out pro wrestling. Chimera brother, I told you I'd get you out of here out of here so you can get ready for your game, man. Great conversation, my man. This has been awesome. I want to have you back on, man. I think it's somebody, it takes a little time introducing you, but I know the Hamin Army will love you. Hey, let everybody out there know where they can keep up with Card Subject to Change and everything you got going on.
Yeah, you can tune in every single week from 6 to 8 p.m. If you're in Dayton, it's on ESPN 1410 a.m. You can also tune in on iHeartRadio and Odyssey apps. Just search for ESPN 1410 from 6 to 8 on Thursdays. We're also on StreamYard as well. We've had a little bit of we're getting some new cameras right now. We just haven't got them installed yet, but so you guys will be able to see us live, but you'll also be able to watch us on StreamYard. I'll post it on the ESPN 1410 social media page. It's also on my social media page on Facebook. You can go ahead and be friends with me on social media, and we will and you can watch the show that way. That's every Thursday 6 to 8 p.m. And then our next big event is going to be the Survivor Series War Games Watch Along, and that's on November 29th. So just tune in then. It'll be just like this. You guys can live chat with us the entire time. We'll be watching. We'll be commenting. Hopefully not causing too much trouble, but that's the move. Thank you so much for having me, Richard. I appreciate it.
You never know with that game, man. I'm going to try to get out. I know you're going to be in my neck of the woods coming up here September 20th. Battle on the Border. Approaching a decade running strong there for Denham and his crew. Armageddon, 2 big cage matches. Shane Douglas is going to be involved in one of those. The only thing I might get pulled because I got duty here to do on our platform because you guys keep running shows during PLEs. You guys keep running the same damn weekends. It's tough to get out there to catch a show, but
I got to tell you, I would do the watch along on every PLE if they would have stayed on Sundays. Them moving the PLE to Saturday is just like, oh my gosh, man. Because now it's like, I was
curious how much you get to watch wrestling, early when I asked you that, because it's just in your schedule. With these weekend shows, I've done it, reach out to talent. It's when you're working, it's hard to get people to come on during the weekend.
It is tough, but it's worth it. You have a great show and you run a great program, and it's always a pleasure to be on with you.
All right, brother. Well, how about before you get out of here, one more, we'll fire it up as you guys are getting ready for kickoff week 1. A lot of people doubting those Lions, that they were the baby face, the upcoming that everyone was cheering for, but they're doubting you this year. All the talking heads, the pros, they don't think you can do it without your coordinators, but we'll fire it up here on the way out here. One more time.
Good Iron Heroes, baby.
Forward down the field.
I'm not going to sing along, man. I always do that. We blew a silver wave. And it's here the brave. Rah, rah, rah.
Hard win the game. With honor you will keep your fame. Down the field and gang. Alliance victory. Go
Lions! We're about to do it right now, Lambeau. Thank you so much for having me.